Jake had no idea his world was about to fall apart that night. He had been invited to a surprise party in honor of a friend's promotion. His wife, Emma, had gone on ahead to help set things up, unsurprising given her flair for theatrics and love of planning elaborate surprises. When she suggested he arrive late to make a memorable entrance, he didn't think twice. He trusted her. There was no reason not to. But the moment he walked through the front door, something felt wrong. The atmosphere was lively, filled with music, laughter, and the buzz of conversation. Guests milled about, dressed smartly, drinks in hand, smiles on their faces. It should have felt familiar, comforting, but it didn't. Something was off. He searched the room for Emma, assuming she was caught up in preparations, but she wasn't behind the bar mixing drinks, and she wasn't chatting with guests. She was just gone. A faint ripple of unease stirred in his chest. Subtle at first, but growing with each moment he couldn't find her. Everyone else seemed oblivious. They laughed, toasted, danced. But for Jake, the night was already beginning to twist into something darker. Then a woman he didn't know approached him, her expression strained, uncertain. She didn't speak at first, just looked at him with eyes that held something heavy, something she didn't want to carry alone. When she finally did speak, it was barely more than a whisper. "You should check the guest room upstairs." Her words hit like ice water. He didn't understand why, but some instinct deep inside him flared, pushing him toward the stairs with a growing sense of dread. His heart pounded as he climbed, one step at a time, the sounds of the party growing more distant with every footfall. He stood outside the guest room door for a long moment. The doorknob felt cold in his hand. He breathed in slowly, held it, and then pushed the door open. Time stopped. His Emma, was inside. She was wrapped in the arms of another man, their faces too close, their bodies too familiar. The shock froze Jake in place. Their eyes met, wide with guilt and panic. Not a word was spoken. The silence screamed louder than anything they could have said. Jake didn't yell, didn't demand answers. He simply turned and walked away. Outside, the night air hit him like a slap. Cold, sharp, but useless against the storm inside him. He moved through the rest of the evening as if in a trance, hearing voices but not listening, seeing faces but not recognizing them. Everything blurred into numbness. Betrayal echoed through him, relentless and raw. When Emma returned home later that night, Jake couldn't bring himself to speak. He didn't want her explanations, didn't want to hear the excuses. He sat in silence, weighed down by the weight of it all. By morning, she insisted they talk. They sat across from one another at the kitchen table. Once a place of shared laughter and warmth, now cold and foreign. She was trembling, her eyes red, swollen with tears. His face, by contrast, was unreadable. Calm on the surface, but with fury simmering beneath. "I don't even know where to start," Emma said, her voice cracking. "But I need to try. Please, just let me talk." Jake didn't answer. He lifted his coffee, took a slow sip, then placed the cup back down with a thud that made her flinch. "Speak," he said finally, his tone flat, sharp. "But know this, there's nothing you can say that will change how I feel right now." Emma nodded, her voice barely holding together. "It was a mistake. A terrible, horrible mistake. I don't want to lose you, Jake. I love you. I've always loved you." A bitter laugh escaped from him, dry and humorless. "Love?" he repeated, his eyes cold. "You call that love? Sneaking around behind my back? If that's your version of love, I want no part of it." Her composure cracked completely, and the tears came fast. "You're right," she said through sobs. "I was wrong. So wrong. I felt disconnected from you. I thought maybe you didn't care anymore. I was scared. I let it get to me. I was weak." Jake's heart twisted hearing her, but his face remained unreadable. He looked at her, trying to find the woman he married in the person sitting across from him, but all he could see was a stranger. The silence stretched. He could walk away, or he could stay and try to rebuild what had been broken. It was a decision that would define everything going forward. Emma reached for him, hands shaking. "There's no undoing this," she whispered. "But maybe there's still something left to fight for. I know I broke your trust, Jake, but I'm begging you. Give me one more chance. Let's try to fix this." Please." The room was silent again. All that remained was Jake, staring down the pieces of a life he never thought would fall apart. Her eyes searched his, silently pleading for understanding, for forgiveness, for anything that might restore what they had lost. Jake stood abruptly, tension gripping his entire body, a storm of rage and sorrow roiling just beneath the surface. He stepped away from her, trying to escape the suffocating weight of her betrayal. But then he turned to face her again, his eyes ablaze with fury laced with heartbreak. "What hurts the most, Emma," he said, his voice trembling with the weight of emotion, "is that you were able to lie to me. How could you do this?" Each word he spoke cut deep, as if carving into fragile remains of their bond. "Our marriage was built on trust," he said, voice low and strained. "And now that trust is gone. Without it, there's nothing left. You can't build anything without trust, Emma." She sat motionless, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. Her heart cracked with every word he uttered. Each tear was an apology she couldn't put into words, an outward sign of the guilt that weighed her down. She looked into his eyes, searching desperately for the man she had once known. But all she found was a wall she could no longer breach. Even in his pain, something inside Jake softened for just a moment. A flicker of the man who once loved her. A part of him wanted to reach for her, to wipe her tears away. But that tenderness was quickly snuffed out by the cold, hard truth of what she had done. His anger returned, consuming the momentary compassion. He leaned forward, taking a deep, shuddering breath. "I don't even know what I feel for you anymore," he muttered, each word sounding like it was torn from him. "Love? Anger? Disappointment? I don't know. But the one thing I'm sure of is that I don't trust you. And without trust, nothing else matters." Emma was devastated. His words crushed her, and the realization of what she had destroyed bore down on her like a wave. She could still see the pain in his eyes, but worse than that was a finality in his voice. The man she loved was slipping away, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Jake turned to leave, unable to bear any more. At the door, he paused, his voice firm though weighed down with fatigue. "Give me time," he said, "but don't expect a miracle from me." When the door clicked shut behind him, silence flooded the room, heavy and suffocating. He sat alone, the past pressing down on his chest like a physical force, a cold, forgotten cup of coffee. Sat on the table, a haunting symbol of the life they had once shared. Now everything felt distorted, like trying to hold on to a dream that slips through your fingers no matter how tightly you grip it. Her tears, her desperate pleas lingered in his memory, but they couldn't undo what had been done. Her betrayal had carved a wound deep within him, one that might never fully heal. His mind was a swirl of questions, all leading back to that night, that choice, her choice, that changed everything. He struggled with the truth. The love he once held for her could no longer survive the damage. The days that followed were clouded by numbness. The pain became a companion, a shadow that followed him through every moment. But eventually, Jake knew he had to choose. He couldn't live in this limbo forever. He could try to bury the pain and move forward, or he could start over on his own terms, free from the wreckage of what had been. One morning, after weeks of soul-searching, he stood in front of the mirror. The man staring back at him looked hollow, aged by sorrow and weariness. This wasn't the man who had once loved with his whole heart. This was someone broken. But as he looked deeper into his reflection, he caught a glimpse of something. Possibility. The faintest sense of strength. He whispered to himself, the words barely audible but anchored with quiet resolve, "I can't do this to myself anymore. I can't let this marriage destroy me." And just like that, a decision was made. He had to face Emma again. This time not to fight, not to plead, but to end it. They sat once more at the kitchen table, the same one that had held their morning coffees, late-night talks, and countless shared dreams. But now it felt cold, the warmth long since drained away. Jake wasn't cruel, but his words were steady and unyielding. He had thought them through, and now there was nothing left but the truth. "Emma," he said slowly, "I've spent so many days thinking about all of this, my love for you, the trust we had, and I've come to one conclusion. I can't stay in this marriage, not without trust. And without trust, there's nothing between us." Her eyes widened, desperation flickering briefly before fading into a quiet, resigned sadness. Her tears came again, softer now, no longer begging, just grieving. "I understand," she whispered, barely a breath. "I know I've lost you. I know I can't fix this." Jake felt the heaviness of her sorrow in his chest. A pang of guilt, maybe even lingering love stirred, but it wasn't enough. The love couldn't hold them together anymore. It had been too deeply fractured. "I wish there was another way," he said gently, "but there isn't. I hope you find peace." And that was it. The end came not with shouting or fury, but with a quiet inevitability. The divorce was quick and clean, far more subdued than anyone had expected. Emma left the house, and Jake stayed behind, though it no longer felt like his home. The walls seemed to close in, echoing with ghosts of what once was. Time passed. Jake tried to reclaim his life. He laughed again, saw friends, slowly stepped back into the world. But the nights were hardest. In the quiet, the memories came back, her face, the betrayal. It still haunted him. The pain never fully left. It hovered just beneath the surface. But he knew, even on the worst nights, that he had made the right decision. He had chosen to save himself. And one day, walking alone beneath a wide, empty sky, Jake spoke aloud, as if reminding himself of something simple yet profound. "Life goes on, and so will I." It wasn't the ending he had once dreamed of, but maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something new.